We're very happy to be here again. Today, we're going to talk about something that I really care about. And it's about the deadly data sins. Like many of you subscribe to this event, and I hope this is going to be very, very interesting, especially the last one. I'm going to be very quick today. There's a lot to cover. This is an executive briefing. The format is quick, actionable information. So let's review. We were talking about the becoming AI ready. There's a lot of hype. A lot of companies are investing in AI. We will not know yet if it's going to become successful. But one thing is for sure: if it's going to be successful, it's because there is a solid data foundation. This is absolutely important. AI models rely on data to run, and companies in general rely on data. In fact, I tend to use the metaphor of water. You need data. You need data about sales orders. You need data about purchases. You need data about inventory. You need data about the product specs. That's all data. That's what your business runs on. And it's like water for life, for your company. And what happens is that most of the time, people are running and walking miles to go and pick water up with a bucket from a well. It's extremely painful. It's extremely, it's a huge effort. Okay. And there are tools that make this easy. And there have been a lot of talking since years ago about big data, about Industry 4.0, connected factory, smart factory, software-defined companies. Like it's lights out factories, everything. All these are solutions to better handle data and so become more efficient and become more effective. However, there's a big issue. There are several issues when handling data. In fact, like most digitization projects still fail. We know all statistics talk about that. Companies still fail most of the time in implementing these things. And we'll see at the end of this briefing what is the most crucial point. The 7 deadly sins of data management are the culprit, and the 8th one will encompass them all and will explain why they even exist. Let's see if we can manage to see the presentation. Here we go. Like we have our little friends here representing the sins. I hope many of you may have seen Seven, the movie with Brad Pitt and Freeman. It was very nice. It's going to be much less gruesome here, I promise. We talked about becoming AI ready. Let's start with the first sin, sloth. What does that mean? Sloth is about not gathering, recording data, not analyzing the data gathered, not acting on the insights. Like we have this image, it's like data is screaming at you, do something. Like I'm here, look at me, and you're not doing it. Let's make some examples. I'm going to make real, concrete examples of what happens in companies that is very common and what are the costs and the disadvantages of this. Because the phantom status. Imagine the production supervisor doesn't update the ERP because everyone knows the production order is done. What happens? The planning and ERP runs based on wrong statuses, and you have you have less purchases because materials hasn't been consumed, and you end up with stockouts. That's just one case. Operators keep scraps recording. Quality covers yields issues week later. And what happens? That you can make a root cause analysis. These are real examples. This happens in companies. And it's a matter of not putting the effort in, really. Not thinking about it, not putting the effort in. Another very important one about hidden knowledge and informal knowledge. Imagine a senior technician set up knowledge that has never been documented. He only knows how to set up that machine. It crashes during the night shift, tools needs replacement, orders are delayed, costs, time, delays. That's because we didn't take action on formalizing knowledge, formalizing data. Hybrid products, I love this one. Imagine a company that has different product variants that are handled with the same internal part number. What do you do? How do you handle the bill of materials? You have two options. You have companies that merge the bill of materials of all the different variants, what happens? You purchase more than what is needed. On the contrary, if you just handle common data of the different variants, only the common parts, you end up in stockouts. I've seen that personally, and for a 20 euro component, a 100,000 K machine was being delayed. That's just because multiple versions were handled with a single bill of materials. That's still not taking action in handling data properly. Let's go with gluttony. So this has several phases. You can be recording data with no purpose. You can be recording data with no planning, and that's a different thing. Or analyzing for too long, storing too much data. The recording with no purpose and no planning is what's the difference? No purpose, you're just gathering data. And that can be fine sometimes, as long as you have the purpose of exploring a specific topic. If you need data to run some kind of AI model, some predictive maintenance model, it's fine. You may not know what the outcome will be, but you have a purpose. With no planning, you gather data, but you have no tools to query it. You have no tools to make sense of it, and you still end up with a lot of data. You don't know what to do with it, or you analyze for too long. You have the data, and you don't focus on the actionable insights that you need now or in the short term, and end up analyzing for too long, and then data becomes stale, and it's not useful anymore. And storing too much data, you may simply just have like too much stuff that you don't need, which ends up in a lot of costs. And that's pretty frequent with all those people that wanted to invest in IoT. You have loads of sensor implanted throughout the plant. You have millions of data points daily. 6 months later, you've analyzed just a tiny fraction of that. Only 2 sensors actually prevented breakdowns. The ROI is definitely negative. You wasted a lot of money on the data lake, on infrastructure, on everything. I love this. The KPI graveyard. Imagine that your company prepares every month like a 47-page report with 68 different metrics. Nobody reads it, and you have insights buried at page 34. You discover just months later when something bad happens, and you figure out that you knew about it, but it was just buried into this heap of KPIs, and you didn't realize what was actually really important at the time. This is a manifestation of gluttony. You have too much. Let's go with lust. Lust is over-relying on a specific metric, ignoring context and other variables. I want to focus on a specific one because it's very important. Especially manufacturing, the OEE. OEE is great, by all means, okay? Track it, it's fine. But don't focus on just it. It can lead to wrong decisions. If you focus too much on it, very bad things happen. So imagine 2 machines in consecutive phases. Machine A is 45%, machine B is 90% OEE. That's a lot of difference. Production director asks you to improve the efficiency of the first machine. Sounds fair, right? It's half the efficiency of the second. And then what happens? That machine A capacity is 100 pieces an hour. Machine B capacity is 50 pieces an hour. Your overall capacity is determined by the bottleneck, as every good theory of constraints or lean enthusiast knows about. You need to focus on the entire flow. So you can output at most 50 pieces an hour. And that's why the first machine will never get beyond it. It's not useful for the first machine to go beyond those 50 pieces an hour, because otherwise it will increase in the saturation of that machine, will only increase work in progress and not improve the overall throughput. This is very important. We could talk about profit as well. I mean, about costs, for example, if you have a margin problem and you focus only on costs, that's what's going to happen. Quality will decrease. That will likely reduce the revenue as well, and may end up not improving the profit at all. So it's important to not focus only on one specific metric, but consider the wider context. Let's talk about greed. This sometimes is more technical, but it can be also very cultural. Greed is manifesting isolated IT systems and lack of information sharing in general. This is very important because regardless of siloed data that you may have of the different systems, people may still be very reluctant to share information and to collaborate. I call it this the great divide. And I have 3 cases just to give an example, and I'm sure all of you will be very familiar with this. You have sales on one side, operations on the other. Sales commit 2-week delivery without checking capacity. Operation discovers it too late. Penalty costs, reconciliation efforts, damaged reputation with the customer. First problem related with having siloed data and lack of collaboration, lack of sharing. Engineering and operations. Engineering changing the specs in the PLM. Floor never notified. They build stuff on old specs. Quality control catches it later on. Scraps, rework, relationship damage again. Another one, production and finance. Production uses MES, finance uses the ERP to check inventory. The defect rate hasn't been recorded in the ERP, so the inventory has been overstated, and you have stock outs, you have write-downs, you have all kinds of problems related to both one side and the other. Wrath. Wrath is manifesting this, making decisions too quickly, okay? So ignoring context, trends, and seasonalities, or with insufficient data. In the picture you see here, blaming somebody when it was somebody else breaking the vase. And there's one specific example that we'll see later on. One example is improvement projects. This is unfortunately all too common. You have maybe you trying to implement a SMED program, SMED, like a lean to reduce setup times, and you're giving yourself 4 months. You're going to start with one machine, with a pilot machine, and you're going to have to train the people. You're going to have to introduce them to several principles, 5S, and different things before actually going into the setup improvement. Week 7, at times, actually increase. Setup times actually increase. The VP declares failure. It's not going well. Cancels the initiative. Somebody else has been more patient, brought the program till the end, achieves 40% reduction of setup times and costs. Company A wasted trading cost opportunity and also cultural damage and burned the people toward improvement projects. That's a blame game. Oh, this one. So you have a quality report signals that there's a very high increase in defect rate from a supplier, which was normally much lower. Immediate angry calls, threatens to pull business. And later on, when investigating more deeply, you find out that the data was miscategorized. So people recorded supplier A, but it was actually supplier B. And in the meantime, you damage the relationship, and you may have risks losing an important supplier. Let's talk about envy. Envy is about comparing to the wrong benchmarks. This is a metaphorical example, but it gives you the idea. You have gold on one side that weighs much more than diamonds. But because you focus on the weight and not on the actual value, then you may be not happy about that. This is one example. Your VP visits Toyota, returns to implement total production system, hire consultants, a lot of money spent. What happens? Your company is an engineer to order company. It doesn't work with Kanban. That requires regular demand. So after 18 months, most tools abandoned except 5S. Fortunately, at least that, plus most of the money have been wasted. CEO wants to be best in class in everything. They see industry standards on different metrics. He wants to beat all of them. But you can't. You need to have trade-offs. You need to excel at something and be less excellent somewhere else. And you end up not achieving what you want. This is probably one of the most common ones about pride. sorry, the slide is wrong. It's not about comparing to the wrong benchmarks. It's about showing off something that is not, that is much, it's just for beauty, really, and just for shows. You've probably seen very complicated dashboards, very costly dashboards that actually nobody really uses. They check it during the board meeting weekly, but decisions are not made on that. Why? Doesn't tell me what I need to know. This is just for show. The abandoned, like you may have large displays throughout the factory showing real-time OEE. We go back to the OEE. Looks impressive to visitors, or you may have a very nice and clear, clean-cut, lean corner, but you haven't validated theoretical cycle times. Numbers don't match reality because people don't actually update them regularly. No one investigates or takes actions. It's just for show. All these different things hamper performance. They decrease performance. And you may have noticed something, and it has to do with the 8th sin, which is the most subtle of all. Even data experts sometimes miss. Of all these different sins, who's actually sinning? Is it a problem of the process? Is it a problem of machines, of technology? Well, bad news. It's me, it's you, and it's everybody. The problem, the 8th sin, is forgetting that everything about data is still about a matter of people. What do I mean by that? It's people that record the data, it's people that read it, that interpret it, that analyze it, that design the systems, that use the systems, that you need to obtain the budget, you need to obtain buy-in and adoption by end users. You need to ensure there are adequate data skills for analysis and interpretation. You need to clean up bad data inputs that people put in. And you need to avoid all the other sins that we've been seeing so far. This is the most subtle one because we think of data management, IoT, Industry 4.0 as something that relates to technology. And sure, technology has a huge impact. Technology is fundamental. Like without the technology, without software, without automated machinery, we cannot do what Industry 4.0 sets out to do. Certainly. But forgetting about the human side of all these transformations, about the process, about the data management, is what causes failure. This is incredibly important. And I'm going to say it always. People are central. Industry 4.0 cannot be a tech-driven initiative. It's a tech-enabled initiative, but it must be data-driven, and data flows must be designed appropriately and planned appropriately, and most importantly, must be people-centered. We've gone a bit far. There was a lot to cover. We at Progress Lab, we focus on people. If you want help with this is what we can do very well. We talk with the people, with everybody. We get buy-in before we move forward. Our solutions are easy to train people with. They take them on in 5-10 minutes, and we make sure that everybody's on board, all the people, and make sure that needs are taken care of. So if you have any more questions, and most importantly, if you want a summary of these slides, if you want to get a document explaining all these things, just drop a comment, get in touch with us, and we'll provide it for you. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you next time.